things accomplished after hours, but the real busy time of the day when we may not get to all the parents and be able to get all the phone calls is during that time period when the kids are in the office.
Well, that's
or
my
in the
point.
building.
If we're paying our after hours, we can afford to pay somebody during hours to do that stuff for us.
Sure.
Instead of having, that's my question was, are we already paying for that?
Probably not a whole other person.
Right. But we're paying toward it.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I know the high school was asking for a secretary as well. And I don't know how this would work. It was just something that came to mind. Would it help, and I'm assuming it would, if we hired one secretary that split the day between the two buildings?
I'm not sure if that
Because
would
we
work.
can't hire 10 people this year.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to,
Something is better
Look
than
at-
nothing.
Yeah, you gotta
I'll
look
step
at
aside
what
to
and
let
that may
Ms.
not be, you know, the right thing, but it was just an
Right.
idea I had.
Well, that's the question. Do you need a full-time person or do you need a part-time person?
It's not gonna help you.
10-month secretary. Instead of the 12-month secretary, if we could get a 10-month secretary. And honestly, the first 3 hours of the school day are the busiest. Students coming in late, parents dropping off lunches that the kids forgot, somebody forgot their sports uniform that's leaving early. Those are the kind of things that they're dealing with every day. And it does become, very time consuming.
Well, I'm not there, that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
So,
Oh, I
yeah,
understand. Yes,
I
no.
want to understand.
And I appreciate it. And listen, I appreciate even being given the opportunity to come here, and I'd gladly answer any questions.
And the thing
We
is,
do our stuff.
Barb, in each building, it's very unique, different students, different problems and all that other stuff.
No, I understand that, but I mean, it was just a way to maybe hire.
And if we hired a secretary, a full-time, and the secretary were at the middle school the first 3 years, or the first 3 hours of the day, and then went to the high school, would that help the high
That was
school
my-
or not?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Better than nothing.
Because we don't understand your need, because we have.
it depends how we again, it's all about allocation of responsibilities. So,
What do you mean, your
So-
principals do?
our 10-month secretary,
Yeah.
well, a big piece is attendance, and we'll get into that. So right now, and then, I let him,
Okay.
yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay, well.
Sorry, I just don't want to stop Steve, let him finish, and then I will jump, I'll piggyback right into that.
So that is a big thing. Doing attendance does take a lot of time, making sure that when somebody comes in tardy, that they get the exact time. Because the tardy minutes do add up to an unlawful absence. So it is time consuming, and right now, we really are just sharing the wealth. I'm lucky that we have such a fantastic staff, that our guidance counselors chipping in, the social workers chipping in, even trying to answer phones.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, there's times that I have to run out and answer the door and answer phones just because nobody else is available, because they're tied up doing other things.
So you're saying that 2 10-month secretaries are definitely needed?
One for the middle school and one for the high school,
Right,
I would
so-
say, so yes.
And I wasn't trying to cut Steve off, but one thing that is being remiss of all, you're talking all the positions that have not been replaced over the years. So previously, and we're talking probably not in my time, so at the high school, so going back 5 years ago, there used to be directly an attendance officer for the district. So that person strictly did all those crazy, attendance is a beast. And I'm looking at
Yeah,
Mr. Brown,
it really is.
he kind of handles the attendance piece from the high school. Steve obviously is a one-man show up there right now, so he's handling all those pieces. But different people have picked up responsibilities of attendance, and that being said, as you mentioned, the guidance counselors, the social workers, the school police officers are now going to the district magistrate's office and handling all the actual filing, and if we need to go forward with that. Like, those are all state-required compensatory laws that we must follow. So one thing that they're looking at, I think, in the high school perspective of that 10-month secretary is to do more attendance piece. Mr. Brown, of his day, probably is
Probably 70% of my.
70% of his day is attendance, and our social workers, the other 30%. So
Correct.
those are pieces where, we can employ that 10-month secretary to do a piece of that, as well as other responsibilities, and I'll get into that. I know you would probably be doing similar.
No, you can hop over now.
And Power School, just so everybody knows, Power School estimates that attendance in a small school district consumes 3,000 hours annually. Just
Yeah.
attendance.
just attendance. And that's us having to follow along.
Well, that's why we have you here, so that we can understand this. We're not in the buildings, we don't know.
That's why I'm honestly sitting up here, I'm sitting up here because we have over 50 million in construction debt for a building that the community was absolutely against. And we have numbers like this for our children. I'm here to help you guys if I can. That's why I'm sitting.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that.
And I've said that for years.
Phys ed teacher, if that person were to, you said you have one retiring at the end of this year,
Correct.
would that be a position you'd be willing to trade off for one of the other ones that are out there, rather than replacing the phys ed position?
Won't help me. I
Because
still have a hole in my schedule.
The ones in
If
the
the
gym
phys
teacher,
ed
right?
teacher is retiring, does that mean they're at the top of the pay scale?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's helpful to know.
yes.
And just so the board's aware, any teacher that announced retirement, I did not remove from the budget. So in the number of employees we had and the salary structure, they stayed in the budget for purposes of.
Because hopefully we
So we're
will be
prepared to
replaced